So what sold this week? All right, the first item up this week is a pack of dart flights. If you watch these videos, you've seen that I sell dart flights at least, a couple times a month. These sold for $3.49. Next up, we have a Ping golf club. Now, again, I know that people sell these for a lot more. I can't seem to get rid of them for the life of me. And since I don't have a set myself, I just, take whatever I can. This is a Ping G15 7-iron, and this one sold for $15. Next up is it's a hat. I used to buy hats all the time. Hats are kind of like coffee mugs. Every thrift store has a ton of them. I used to buy them all the time, but I ended up having I think I had 500 or something of these things sitting downstairs. And I've got them all in different bins, but when you sell one, then you got to go through them, and even when you have them all stacked together, so you just look at the brim, you see what color it is, see what color the little knob is, it's still a huge pain in the ass. So I stopped buying them completely a few years ago. But this was a Coyote Ugly hat, and this one sold for $7. But if you do want to get into selling in the hat game, mesh trucker hats used to sell a lot. I know that. They seem to fall off, but if you find it's just like a coffee mug. If you find something that's pretty cool, it'll definitely sell. I just don't tend to look in that area anymore. I don't kind of go. The place I go to have knickknacks and home goods on this side and clothes over there. I don't go to the clothes section. Just not for me. Next up, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 20 basketball cards. These, I bought a whole, so maybe, I think it was 2 years ago. I walked into Goodwill and they had these little packets of cards. And generally, they're just shitty cards, but all these ones were in plastic hard sleeves. And I saw a few Michael Jordans and I picked them up. So over the years, I've sold, I sold all the good ones basically. There was a few in there for between 100 and I think the most I sold one for was 200 or maybe just under 200. Don't remember exactly the price, but all these 20 of them sold to one guy for $29.90. These were Ray Allen's, Antoine Walker, Tracy McGrady. I think those are the three main guys that the guy bought. Ray Allen. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Ray Allen, but he bought a ton of Ray Allen cards. I don't keep up with sports, so forgive me. Next up, we have a keychain. I do like to sell keychains because you can buy them for very cheap, and they do sell. If you buy a pack of them for $1.99 and you got 20 in there, you sell one. This one sold for $7. Good deal. I love Pete keychain. Pretty sweet. That reminds me of the hat that sold last week. Anyone but Edgar. Next up, we have a vintage pewter fairy. She's sitting on a mushroom. So there's two things that make this kind of cool and sellable. You will find a lot of pewter little things, little figures and such. I actually just picked up a pack yesterday. But this one sold. I think the main reason this sold is because A, fairies, and B, mushrooms. People do collect mushrooms, put them together, and it's a very mystical experience if you know what I'm talking about. This one sold for $15.40. Next up, we have another basketball card. This one sold to somebody else. Jerry Stackhouse rookie card. This one sold for $1.39. Jerry Stackhouse, and actually these other guys too. Jerry Stackhouse was big on the scene when I was growing up, and my father actually taught me and my brothers and my best friend how to play poker with basketball cards. So we deal out a hand, and whoever won got to grab a card out of the pack of basketball cards. Jerry Stackhouse was big when I was growing up, and so I do remember the name. But I remember that, and I think his name was Chris Webber or something like that. They were very collectible, and just to see the amount of money that my father probably spent on basketball cards back in the day, and to see what you can get now, it's rather depressing. So, in any event, this one sold for $1.39. Next up, we have 4 packs of dart flights. These sold to somebody, I think this is in the UK. But in any event, it sold 4 different packs of 3 dart flights each, and these sold for $10.60. Next up, we have a 14 karat gold hoop earrings. These were really thin and small. These sold for $32. I'm kind of glad that I sold these when I did, because I actually just got back from the finder yesterday, dropping off a whole load because it's been slower, and so in order to continue moving things and to free up some cash, I scrapped a ton of silver and quite a bit of gold. So we'll see. Fingers crossed for $7,000. I hope it's somewhere between $9,500 and $7,000. I'm pretty sure. But again, I'll probably make a video on that, because it's very, when you scrap that kind of money, it is it can be very cumbersome, I think is the right word. You never really know exactly what it's going to be, because there is something called burn off. There is, it's still, even if you test certain things, some of them could be fake, so it's never a 100% thing, which is always a problem, especially for people that are new into this, in that you always can feel the sense of getting ripped off. And it's very important when you're dealing with this kind of stuff to have a good relationship and to have a certain level of trust with the people you're dealing with, because you will never be 100% certain that what you got is what you got. You just can't. You're dropping off a load of silver and gold to somebody, and you're walking out with a piece of paper, and they could easily say, like, there was nothing in this, which actually did happen to me one time with one person, which is why I don't deal with them anymore. But maybe it's a tale for another time. Next up, we have a Super Mario Brothers Shy Guy little PDC figure. This one sold for $5.59. Next up, we have a vintage silver bracelet. This one sold for $8.40. All right, next up. Last week, I believe I sold an articulating fish for like $10. This is another one, but this one is an enamel sterling silver articulating koi, and this sold for $100. Next up is a tiger toy, and it sold for $6.99. Next up, we have the first brooch of the week, our first pin. This is a Mosaic Italy pin. It sold for $7. Next up, we have another brooch, and this one is a vintage sterling silver flower brooch, and this one sold for $12.60. Quick note here is that this past week I got a call from one of the thrift stores I work very closely with, saying that he had just got done pricing a bunch of brooches. He knows that I buy them. I went in there. I think I spent $111 on somewhere around 30 brooches. When I got home, one of them was by a company called Schneider of New York. That brooch alone I have up for $950, and quite a few of the other ones are Miriam Haskell and Juliana. Oh, my phone's ringing. And those can sell for somewhere around $100 to $200 a piece as well. So it was a very good day this week for finding things. Next up, we have a vintage pair of earrings. This is by a company called Sandor. Sandor is another name to look out for. This one sold for $19.50. Next up, we have a vintage sterling silver pearl earrings. These are like a dyed pearl blue earrings. These sold for $5.67. Next up, we have a vintage marble lot. This sold for $7.50. Next up, it's a silver-plated bowl. It's like made to look like a shell. These are very common. Silver plate I generally don't buy unless I'm getting it for dirt cheap. Sometimes I walk in there, these things are marked at $10. Other days I'll walk in there and they're marked at $2.99. This one was somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.99, $2.99. Otherwise, I would not have bought it. But it did sell, and it sold for $28. Next up is a sterling silver Faith Hope pendant necklace, and this one sold for $13. Next, we have a pair of Wedgwood plates. These sold for $32. Next up, interesting story with this one. This is a vintage Knights of Columbus hat, and so this guy, he sent me an offer for $5. I've had this, I think it was marked for like $8. I took the offer. He ends up sending me a text or a message saying that, there was a $2 charge, or his invoice, he was charged more than what his invoice was saying. I told him to call eBay. He didn't respond. So flash forward 2 weeks, I end up getting feedback, a negative, saying that I refuse to give him back his $2. Whatever. So I didn't even know where the $2 came from, to be honest with you. I didn't think about it. It is my handling fee. But I called up eBay. eBay said that they would send him a message explaining what happened. But because I did tell him to call eBay and that I didn't change the price of the actual item, they were going to remove the feedback. So that was good. Yeah, Knights of Columbus. I have sold a bunch of like little pins. I'm not even sure exactly. I know it's like some sort of fraternal organization. But I definitely have sold some pins of those. I do remember those. Next up, speaking of pins, we have a chicken mogul jumper, which is just awesome. This one sold for $13.99. If I could pick anything in the world that I want to come across, so if any thrift store people are watching, is I want to have a vase full of these little lapel pins and collector pins. Next up, we have a vintage Nintendo NES game. I've had this game since, let me see here. I know I've had this a while. Since 2016, August 15th of 2016. I'm not even exactly sure how to say this. I have no idea. Y'all be able to see it. But this is a Nintendo game. I don't buy Nintendo games anymore because everywhere I go, they're able to quickly look up exactly how much they sell for. They put that price on it, and then they sit there until someone else, I don't know who, comes in and buys them. But it's definitely not me. The amount of money that I make on them is very slim, and it's just not worth my time. Nor do I really care. That's another thing. If you're going to do this, you have to do things that interest you. Because if it doesn't interest you, you're not going to want to do it. Right? That's why I like what I like. I like brooches, I like jewelry, I like silver and gold. I'm kind of a miser. That's what I like. I like history as well. But what I don't like, even though I'm a huge video game player, along with my kids, I do not like, buying and selling that stuff. Next up, we have another troll. I think I sold one a few weeks ago as well. I sell them every so often. This is a vintage Ace novelty troll. And it's a little boxing guy, sold for $9.97. Sometimes these are hit or miss. Some can go for big money, other ones don't. This one was only for $9.99. Next up, this was a decent sale. I've actually had this for a long time. I don't know why it took so long. This is from a designer called Sweet Romance, and it was like a Virgin Mary pendant, and this one sold for $50. I got an offer. I think it had it for $80, somewhere around then. Let's see. Let's go take a quick gander. Oh no, it was up for $92 with 30% off to $65. Someone sent me an offer for $50. I took it. This has been online since March 15th, 2016. I'm just honestly really glad that the rhinestones fell out while it was, sitting in my house for so long. But it's a very nice necklace, sold for $50. Glad to see it gone. All right, so this week was a horrendous week. This was the week of the missing tracking on the box, and for the $400 item, the missing tracking on that one, and the chair, which I'm still haven't gotten. No one's contacted me yet. I have this $125. I've had it for almost a month now. But in any event, this one was horrendous. Next week, I think, is slightly better, with the next week following that was back up to normal. All right, so hopefully we'll get back to it next week. Thanks for watching. See you then.